Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a new Diablo 4 video. Today we're talking builds across the entire range of all the classes, which is the current strongest build overall for each class. Of course, with the recent patch of 1.0.3, you'd think that would shake things up a bit, but honestly, the patch largely addressed off-meta builds, which also weren't really improved enough to challenge the current meta. However, since the last time I talked about this topic, there has actually been a lot of progress made in each class. Necromancers have an entirely new meta build, Druids have something so strong it's probably going to get nerfed, and then there's the double core build for rogues, and so on. So basically there's been a lot of progression in the meta, and it's time to talk about it. As always, all the builds I talk about today can be found as videos on the channel, as well as linked down below. Let's begin with my main class, the Necromancer. To get right to it, I was referring to their new, very strong and popular Shadow Mist build. This was popularized by the Necromancer to create and use it to complete a tier 100 nightmare dungeon. Necrobon, being the Necromancer in question, created a build on infinitely blood misting to completely avoid damage. The reality is more like most of the time you can blood mist, and while you're in it, of course, you're popping corpses, dealing damage with Shadow and Shadow Blight, while just immune to damage. Now, the downside was the output being noticeably lower than the other meta options, but the simple ability to ignore damage and CC while dealing damage can't really be denied in the context of completing a tier 100, even if it took some time to do. As the build concept was introduced, myself and other Necromancers started adapting and looking to improve it. Crit Shadow Mist became very popular as a concept now, and the much more bursty version, thanks to 1.0.3 actually, using Sever as a core ability that I've put out. A great addition to the meta of Necromancer, but is it the best build? No, Bone Spear remains the best. In fact, in that new balance patch, it was somehow buffed in two relevant ways. Firstly, its incredible useful basic, the Bone Splinters, which when enhanced would provide the all-important crit chance you need in that build. That was buffed to not only provide more essence, but also slightly buffed in its base damage. Crazy. Second to that was the meta pick for every Necromancer build, Corpse Tendrils, which had its enhancement, like Corpse Tendrils, buffed to be more likely to spawn blood orbs. That's great in particular with Bone Spear because Bone Spear is generating vulnerability anyway, so you don't need the other enhancement for Corpse Tendrils to do that. So bluntly, it's the best leveling spec for Necromancer still, while also being the best single target method to take down Uber Lilith, while at the time of recording, it also has the fastest kill of that. Further, it's got incredible speed at clearing nightmare dungeons due to the no need for building up damage, you can just kind of go. Finally, it's even cleared a tier 100 recently by the Necromancer player Exo, who cleared it using a Bone Spear at max range to bounce back the spikes while at that safe long distance. So while Shadow Mist is undeniably awesome with its multiple versions for different purposes, Bone Spear remains king. Now let's talk about a build that has shifted the meta for the class. That's of course the Druids and their insane barrier build. The build is tied to Earthen Bulwark, which generates a strong barrier that can also be a source of damage. Now interestingly, that damage type scales with barrier generation and leads to a totally unique damage bucket for the class. Apparently, that actually means they have one more damage type than any other method in the game, which leads to the absolutely massive damage potential. With the right setup, you can get enough CDR to be popping that bulwark often. By reapplying it, you can pop the barrier for the crazy damage, and we're talking anywhere from 50 to 100 million in one hit, which is silly. But that is far from all that's good about the build. It's also clearly the most survivable build in the game alongside that outrageous damage. Essentially, you can create a build that is all about damage reduction while injured. So while at under 35% health, you can get up to 85% less damage taken, which is crazy. But then you combine that with the Shield of Earthen Bulwark. The shield also benefits from the 85% less damage taken, making it extremely unlikely anything's ever getting through that shield while protecting your low health state. So you are essentially a walking, exploding, next to damage immune monster. The build was so strong that it was able to clear a tier 100 in roughly 5 minutes by Rob2628, which he very casually did live after making a Druid like 22 hours before that. It's fair to say that this is the strongest build for Druid right now, and I'm also feeling pretty sure it's going to be nerfed in some way. Moving on, let's talk Sorcerer, the official most popular class according to Blizzard themselves. Their best build certainly still seems to be Ice Shards. The by far most popular build among the top sorcerers weeks ago remains extremely strong and popular now. This turns your sorcerer into an ice blasting machine gun, a pretty hilarious and satisfying concept. While it might not have the best AoE concept for Sorcerer. It makes up for it in very strong single target power, and also penetrates through the target, spreading the frost, hard CCing enemies, and blowing up groups of enemies all the same. Much like any Sorcerer build, it's hard committing to defensives while focusing entirely on making ice shards as strong as it can be for the main damage source. Sorcerer is also the strongest class when it comes to staggered and stunned enemy DPS, able to enhance the damage during those periods super high. That is how it was able to destroy Uber Lilith, by building up a stagger and then hard committing to stagger damage as a concept to deal so much damage that Lilith would die as soon as the stagger happens. Ice Shards isn't perfect though, it doesn't seem to be the best option for tier 100, considering the recent clear by Ben Lee Gaming, who used the build, but it took a solid 2 hours and 20 minutes to clear. That is compared to the run by King Dino, who cleared their tier 100 in roughly 19 minutes using a Hydra build. Overall though, it's fair to say that the Ice Shards build remains general king for Sorcerers currently. Next, let's talk Rogues, who just happen to be my main secondary class. The best build in this case comes down to Twisting Blades versus the new fantastic Rapid Flurry build. Yeah, 2 cores in one build, and it's honestly awesome. This was popularized by Wodijo, a well-known streamer who found the lacking single target DPS of Flurry to be something you can actually overcome by running a second single target focus core. Rapid Fire is a brilliant pick for this because even without any major commitment from aspects or even your Paragon if you don't wanna, you can still get very solid single target DPS. Naturally, it still requires the levels for your skill tree to get it going, but it's a trade any Flurry player should be willing to make because of the really lacking single target damage. What's great about this build then is how with Flurry, you're able to pop packs of enemies instantly. By imbuing your Flurry with Shadow and spinning on the spot with Flurry, you kill everything around you instantly. There's no build-up necessary like with the other rogues that need a bit of setup before their attack goes off. And if you face, say, a stronger elite or boss fight, you can instead dash or shadow step straight to that target and blast it with rapid fire shots at point blank. And this is thanks to the enhancement that it has. Rapid shots can scale its own damage through crit chance and crit strike damage by massive numbers. It works by hitting the same target with all arrows, and after you evade, you get a massive crit strike damage increase. The build just has perfect synergy, leading to tons of dazes and knockdowns, popping packs of enemies instantly, crushing single target, and clearing nightmare dungeons in incredible times. I find it super fun, thanks to the way you choose what to use next and why, and you sort of power it up beforehand with your aspects, the combo points and movements and all that. However, Twisting Blades has the tier 100 clear currently. It has the Uber Lilith clear at an insane pace, and it's still the most popular build for rogues. While Twisting Blades takes a bit of effort to, say, position as it flies back through you through the groups, or takes a moment to actually fly out of the target you're currently smashing, it still hits super hard and flows really well. And while Rapid Flurry Rogue makes choices and plays based on the situation, Twisting Blades Rogue simply blades everything constantly, and all the other abilities sort of enhance that and that alone. So it's a lot more straightforward and ultra strong in all its variations. I would say it's certainly contested now by Rapid Flurry, but I would still say Twisting Blades is king currently. Last but not least then, the Barbarians. This comes down to 2 builds that have pretty much been contesting one another since the original Whirlwind nerf. It's Whirlwind versus Hammer of the Ancients. Whirlwind remains the winner for fast dungeon clearing, for open world content, and has also cleared a tier 100 at that. Its contester, the Hammer build, is able to deal way more damage in individual hits and easily wins out when it comes to single target DPS. In fact, this is a really clear issue between the two when we look at the tier 100 clear using Whirlwind. In just 7 minutes, the Korean player Jung Bo, he was able to reach the boss fight in those just 7 minutes. That's really good in a tier 100. The problem was, what followed was a 9-minute slog against the final boss. Whirlwind simply cannot compete with Hammer of the Ancients for single target. The Hammer build has cleared Uber Lilith in 6 minutes and 40 seconds currently, as shown by Yi Zheng, in a very convincing show of strength and survivability, still hitting millions per hit while in a sort of mega defensive state to stay alive. So it's pretty hard to say with this one. Whirlwind I would still say is the more popular build due to leveling and speed dungeon clearing to level 100 being really important, but for pushing nightmare tiers and also Uber Lilith, I'd say the Hammer of the Ancient wins. But what do you barbarians think about this? Which is the better build? There you have it. My current overview of the best builds for each class currently, and in some cases their most relevant competition. I hope this video was interesting and potentially useful to you. Again, if you're interested in any of the builds that I've talked about today, you can find them as video guides here on the channel, or linked in the description. For now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.